Finally, Blizzard have broken cover and given us news about Burning Crusade on Anniversary Realms, and honestly, there's a lot more to cover here than you may expect, and things will be quite different compared to how TBC Classic launched back in 2021. We're talking some major quality of life improvements, significant changes to how attunements work, and some pretty substantial raid tuning that's going to affect how easily you progress through the content. There's also some important news that affects players for Anniversary, Hardcore, and Era realms as well, so even if you're not so much into TBC, there may be something of use for you here. Keep in mind that things are subject to change here, but this is how things are panning out at the moment. But we've got quite a bit of information to cover, so let's make a start. The Burning Crusade Anniversary Edition's pre-patch begins on January 13th, 2026. Pre-patches contain the expansion systems without the actual expansion itself. For TBC, the pre-patch will of course include the new playable races, both the Blood Elves for the Horde and Draenei for the Alliance. You'll also see your class changes go live with updated talent trees and spell mechanics that defined the Burning Crusade. You'll also have dual crafting to start leveling as well in the pre-patch. What you won't have access to is Outland itself. That will stay locked until the full expansion has released. Now, as for when the full expansion launches, we don't have an official date on that quite yet. However, looking back at TBC Classic in 2021, the pre-patch launched on May 18th and the expansion itself came out on June 1st. 2 weeks later. Now back then, that 2-week window was widely criticized as being way too short, especially for people trying to level the new races. But given the community feedback back in 2021, I find it hard to believe they would stick to this time frame again, and I would expect it to be at least 3, maybe even 4 weeks, so I would plan around then, which will put launch somewhere around February 3rd to February 10th. We'll have to wait and see on this one though. Free character transfers from Anniversary Realms to Classic Era will open up on November 25th and will remain open until January 12th, 2026. This is your window to decide whether your characters will continue into TBC or have Classic Era as their new permanent home. There's no middle ground here, you're going to have to choose one or the other between those 2 dates. As for hardcore players, well, Blizzard have said there are no official Burning Crusade hardcore realms being created. So what will happen to the Anniversary hardcore characters then? Well, during the transfer window, hardcore Anniversary players will have the option to transfer their characters to a normal, non-hardcore Anniversary realm, which will then continue on to TBC Anniversary. Essentially, you'll be converting your hardcore character into a regular character to play TBC. If you don't move your hardcore Anniversary character to a normal realm before January 12th, they'll stay on their current hardcore realm, but the transfer destination will change to non-hardcore Classic Era realms. This means a hardcore character who dies can transfer to Classic Era and return and carry on playing. Now, I was unsure whether Blizzard would end up doing TBC hardcore at all, but I still think even if they're not supporting it officially, it'll still happen. It's just going to be the community going back to using the add-on like we did before the official realms existed, and honestly, it was fine. It wasn't perfect, but it worked well enough. At the end of the day, hardcore is mainly a personal leveling challenge. If somebody's out there and they can't help but cheat in a self-assigned challenge in a video game, that's on them. The spirit of hardcore has always been about proving to yourself what you can do within the game. So even if this is the route we have to take, I think it's okay. Next up, so you may remember in 2021, Blizzard offered a character clone service where you could pay to have your character continue to TBC and have them copied to Classic Era at the same time. This used to be $35 per character, which caused a massive amount of controversy in the community. Following this backlash, Blizzard would drop the price, and then way later they would drop the price again before removing this service. However, for TBC Anniversary, this character copy service is just not available whatsoever, and there's also been no announcements about it. Given how reasonable it would have been to expect this service to exist in some form, it's kind of surprising that this is where we are at. Could it still happen? Maybe, but I think if you want it, you're gonna have to make your voice heard. But at least as we are at the moment, this character copy service is not available. Blizzard have also announced they'll be opening a PTR for TBC Anniversary, so here's what they are testing there. First of all, Heroism and Bloodlust are now raid-wide with a 10-minute sated or exhaustion debuff. And very importantly, they also say, this specific ability and debuff will only reset on boss kill and wipe. This is massive. So Originally in TBC and in TBC Classic in 2021, these abilities only affected the Shaman's party. This led to a strategy where guilds would rotate Shamans between their groups to give Bloodlust to certain parties continually throughout a fight, and it was really just about min-maxing their top DPS players to get the most performance out of them. And the fact that it resets after encounters end is something that people are overlooking, because Bloodlust and Heroism are the most powerful buffs that have ever been put into World of Warcraft, and this has always been true for them. So the fact you're going to have these up for every single boss fight is a very big deal. Realistically though, for this buff, I think it was either going to be Blizzard stepping in and providing this solution, or Warcraft logs saying we will invalidate your log if you have multiple Bloodlust in an encounter or something. So does this mean Shamans are not going to be played as much anymore? I mean, not really, to be honest. You'll still ideally want one Shaman per group because their totem buffs are just way too good to ignore, and certain specs like Ellie or Enhancement provide other buffs as well. Speedrun guilds might optimize and drop some Shamans as time goes on and they begin to outgear content, but for your average raiding guild, don't worry about it, Shamans are still going to be in high demand. Terracone's respawn rate has been increased and additional Terracone nodes have been added. So Terracone is a herb that spawns surprisingly in Terracar Forest, and it's used for a number of consumables, most importantly Haste Potion. However, in TBC Classic, the demand for this far outstripped the supply, leading to incredibly high prices. On top of that, for Anniversary, we have Mega Realms now, which have a ton more players on, so this was absolutely something necessary to change in advance, and hopefully it will bring down the price of consumables, so you should have an easier time stocking up. Next up, things are about to get really ult friendly in TBC Anniversary. Every player's first character will be required to become fully attuned to each heroic dungeon by hitting the revered reputation requirement, but once you've done that, you can purchase a bag, sending a bind on Battle.net account key to your ults, and ults only need to reach friendly reputation to use this key. Bind on Battle.net account is important because that means you can do this cross-faction. In original TBC and in TBC Classic for that matter, you would have to do this revered grind on all your ults to ensure that you could eventually work towards raiding. And it was fine to do on your main character, and I am glad they've kept that, but dropping the requirement on ults to just friendly is going to make things so much easier. This is going to make the ult experience so much better, and it means that players will be able to bring many more characters to raids without burning out through attunements. The raid attunement changes are even more dramatic than this. Every player's first character will be required to become fully attuned for each raid, but once that's done, the raid is just unlocked for all characters on the player's Battle.net account. One and done for raiding attunements, that's it, never again. Pretty amazing quality of life change. These barriers to entry are just gone now, so TBC Anniversary is going to be super ult friendly. But you may be thinking all these fresh level 70 characters who are suddenly ready for raiding would be held back by their lack of gear, because TBC raiding was quite difficult compared to vanilla, right? Well, maybe not, because all TBC raids will be releasing in their post-nerf state. Over the course of original TBC, Blizzard adjusted raids time and again, nerfing them when new content came out, and they were doing this because back then people still had to attune and go through the content. So if we're having all the nerfs from day one, well, let me just tell you, the content in TBC overall is going to be a lot easier. For tier 4 you have Karazhan Gruul's Lair and Magtheridon's Lair. All of these saw many nerfs over the course of the expansion. Nightbane in Karazhan, Gruul and Magtheridon all received big health nerfs and damage reductions to their abilities. Tier 5 is Serpent Shrine Cavern and Tempest Keep, and these two raids without exaggeration got absolutely crushed by nerfs. Bosses and trash health was reduced substantially, and several major mechanics were straight up changed or removed. Most notably among them is Lady Vash's mind control in her final phase. Kael'thas Sunstrider was also made a way shorter fight post-nerf. Even trash health was reduced significantly, with some tier 5 trash and bosses having up to a 40% reduction in health. For tier 6, that's Black Temple and Mount Hyjal, these raids were already fairly straightforward compared to tier 5. You'll definitely see faster kill times, but overall the experience won't be drastically different. And Sunwell barely got nerfed during original TBC actually. The biggest nerf here was to the Muru encounter that received some adjustments in patch 2.43, but that was reducing his health, Ad's health, and Entropius's health. This boss was the hardest one of the raid by quite some margin, but now he should be much easier as well. And these raids just didn't get nerfed once either. Early content like tier 4 got nerfed repeatedly in successive patches, with additional adjustments as new raid tiers opened up. All in all, I did clear all the content on TBC Classic, and I did do it post-nerf as well. Tier 4 is going to be much easier. Tier 5 will be significantly easier. This will be where you see the biggest difference. Tier 6 will be a little bit easier, and somewhere will be mostly the same apart from Muru. If you combine this with the Terracone changes, meaning everyone's going to have DPS potions, and the fact that, this is huge by the way, Bloodlust is resetting on every single boss encounter, you're going to be crushing this content with ease. If you have Heroism every single pull, it's going to make a massive difference to certain bosses. Before in TBC, you'd have to plan which bosses you wanted to use it on and where you wanted to save it. This is just going to make the easier bosses even easier and ensure this cooldown's always up for the harder bosses. I think it would have been interesting to see a few weeks of pre-nerf progression before things get toned down, give people a little bit of challenge, something to get their teeth stuck into, but only have it last for, I don't know, 4 weeks or something before changing everything to their post-nerf state. In any event, I think Blizzard want the pacing of TBC on Anniversary to be a bit different and want to ensure that everyone has a really good chance to clear the content. Next up, PvP. So there are some changes coming to Arena as well. During original TBC, teams started at 1500 rating, and you can make new teams to participate in matches to receive points each week, without having to climb back from zero. With TBC's Anniversary Edition, Blizzard wants to bring back that team feeling while allowing players to play with whoever they want to without needing an actual team. So here's how the system will work. Each character's rating now starts at 1500 instead of 0. Once per week per character, you can pay gold to reset your rating back to 1500, but only if you're below that. Ratings above 1500 can't be reset because otherwise everyone would get boosted. The gold cost will also vary on your bracket. Essentially what they're doing is replicating the old system where you could make a new team for gold if your rating tanked each week, but since teams don't exist anymore as a concept, you're just instead resetting your personal rating. The gear requirements have also changed too. There are no requirements to purchase PvP gear for any pieces except shoulders, which require 2000 rating, and weapons, which require 1700 rating. Everything else, you just earn points and go buy it. The overall cost of PvP gear has been lowered slightly too, making it faster to get geared up. The Faction Reputation PvP gear will now be sold starting with the first arena season, and the set bonuses for Faction Reputation PvP gear have been combined with their honor gear equivalents. This means you can just mix and match your gear between different sets whilst you're upgrading. These changes lower the barrier to entry for PvP significantly, which I think is definitely a good thing. You'll still need to earn your rating for your shoulders and weapons, but otherwise if you're just interested in sending some 5s for points, you'll be able to do that as well pretty easily. One of the larger quality of life changes for guildmasters and officers coming to TBC Anniversary is something we should have had from launch in TBC Classic, and that will be guild banks being available from day one. In 2021 we had to wait a while before these things became available, but now they're here from day one, so that's good news. Blizzard are also selling upgrade packs for TBC as well. These packs include cosmetic items, mounts, and other typical World of Warcraft upgrade pack things. You also get a flying mount now instead of just a ground one. The key difference between the two packs is one of them has a boost in game time, the other one doesn't. Also important to know is that at this point in time you cannot boost Blood Elves or Draenei to 58. Now I'm just going to throw it out here, originally Blizzard said you couldn't boost Pandaren in Mists of Pandaria, then they changed their mind and did allow you to do that. Maybe if enough people say they do want to boost Blood Elves and Draenei, Blizzard may change their mind on this, so just thought I'd let you know about that. And even if you're not planning to venture into TBC, there are some changes coming to both Classic Era that affect normal and hardcore realms. Blizzard have said, when making your decision to transfer, please consider that the Group Finder tool and dual spec feature will soon be added to Classic Era realms. This means that new and existing characters on Classic Era will have the option to learn dual specialization. expansion. The rule sets between Anniversary Hardcore and the original Hardcore realms will also be aligned, meaning the original Hardcore realms will also receive dual spec and Dungeon Finder. Additionally, edit mode is being added as a quality of life feature for players' user interfaces on both Era and TBC realms. Edit mode basically allows you to rearrange your display from the default layout. You can move various UI elements around your screen, resize them and customize them without having to rely on add-ons. It's a feature that's been in retail for a while now, don't really see a downside to it, so sure, why not, seems good. And that covers about all the major news from the TBC Anniversary announcement, and it's a bit more news than I was expecting, to be honest. The general sentiment overall though is that Blizzard is making TBC Anniversary significantly more accessible and adult-friendly than TBC Classic was in 2021. And the big unknown questions at this point in time are still really the launch date and whether Blizzard will change their mind on offering some kind of character cloning service. Either way, January 13th for the pre-patch and official release should come a few weeks later. So let me know your thoughts on all the changes that they've implemented. Are you happy with all this, or are they taking things a bit too far? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you all in the next one very soon.